Hello, I'm Ann Lichen-Spark. I'm a National Program Leader with NIFA's Institute of Food Production and Sustainability. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the selection of panelists and ad hoc reviewers and the assignment of proposals. A few things that you need to keep in mind with regard to panel member selection are that the people that you identify for your panel, that you asked to be panel members, should be active in research, education, and or extension, depending on what the program itself covers. Also, it's very important that they not be submitting to the program, not as the primary director, the project director, not as co-project directors, not any of the key personnel submitting on a project submitted to the program. When you put together the panel, when you identify the people to serve on your panel, there are several important things that you need to think about with regard to balance on the panel. You, of course, need the appropriate research, education, and extension expertise to cover the proposals that are submitted to the program. And you also would like to get panel members who have some experience in reviewing applications, particularly for NIFA. You want to consider a balance of ethnicity and gender. You want to avoid having a panel that's all one gender, and you want to make sure that you have various ethnic backgrounds on the panel. You also want a balance in terms of institutional affiliation. So you want people from, depending again on the topic of the program, you want people from larger research institutions, 1862s. You want some from minority serving institutions, 1890 institutions. And you want, if it's appropriate, you want people from federal scientists, government institutions, for example, the Agricultural Research Service, and you may want people from industry represented on your panel as well. Additionally, you want to make sure that you get a good distribution of panelists from various parts of the country. We divide the country into 5 geographical areas, and you want to make sure that, if at all possible, you get people from a range of those areas. For example, you don't want all people from one region of the country, such as the southern region or the western region. And finally, you want to make sure that you have a good distribution of professional rank on the panel. So you don't want all of your panel managers, all of your panel members to be full professors, or all of your panel members to be assistant professors. You want to get a range of experience on your panel. When you're initiating the process of identifying panel managers or panel members, you want to plan ahead. So you want to think before you start calling people about how you want to, the order that you want to call people, and you want to use the resources that you have available to you. The National Program Leader working with you on the program should have names and areas of expertise of people who have served on the panel for your program in previous years. And that can be very helpful. And if your National Program Leader has a lot of experience with the program, they may be able to give you information about how responsive those people were and that sort of thing, which wouldn't necessarily be available from other sources. It's also very important to discuss confidentiality and conflict of interest guidelines in the first conversation that you have with potential panelists. You should be learning about conflict of interest and confidentiality in one of the other units that we have available for the panel manager training. As you're thinking about panel member selection, you probably want to have a strategy. So areas that might be the most difficult to get panel members for, a particular expertise where there aren't a lot of people with that expertise, you might want to identify someone for that area first, and then you can move forward identifying other panel members, maybe from areas where there is more expertise. You also want to discuss reimbursement for the panel members in that first call. So the hotel, per diem, and travel expenses are covered by NIFA, with the exception of panelists who live or who have a tour of duty that's within 35-mile radius of Washington, D.C. Panelists will receive an honorarium of $225 a day. Again, there's an exception to that. Federal employees cannot receive an honorarium. Let's talk now about ad hoc reviewer selection. We at NIFA recommend the use of ad hoc reviewers in a selective way. We want to use the resource of our reviewer community efficiently. So we would like you to only identify ad hoc reviewers as they are needed, and consult with the national program leader for names from the database, and be prepared to ask more than one person to review a particular proposal, because we often get responses that people are not available or not interested in reviewing. So you need to have several people that you can approach to do ad hoc reviews. And we ask that you use ad hoc reviewers for applications only that are well outside the expertise of the members of the panel. So if there is enough expertise on the panel to give a thorough and fair review of a proposal, then you may not want to ask any other people to provide ad hoc reviews. And we ask that you use no more than 4 ad hoc reviews per proposal. Again, this is to make appropriate use of the resource that is our reviewer community and not overburden our reviewer community. In addition, it's very important, as you're identifying people to serve as ad hoc reviewers, that you keep in mind the conflict of interest guidelines. So again, any applicant who serves as a PD or co-PD on a proposal that has been submitted to the program cannot serve as an ad hoc reviewer. Panelists receive all proposals as electronic PDF files via our online system, the peer review system, or PRS. This gives them an enhanced ability to search through the proposals, and also it allows the applications to be bookmarked, which makes navigation easier. We will not provide paper copies to reviewers. And all of the reviews that our panelists and ad hoc reviewers provide for the program are to be submitted electronically via the PRS system. This slide gives the URL for our peer review system, and we are constantly making improvements to this system. And you will probably be asked at the end of the panel meeting if you can suggest improvements for the system. But it's a good system. So the electronic panel summary is also something that the panel manager needs to be involved in developing. Panel managers have the ability to both read panel summaries and write panel summaries in the system. They can edit the panel summaries after the panel scribe has completed their submission of draft of the panel summary. And they can also, if they're not satisfied with the panel summary that the panel scribe provides, they can send it back to the panel scribe to recompile. So for example, if the panel manager identifies an important point that the panel made during the meeting that's not captured in the panel summary, they might want to send it back to the scribe with a comment. Also, the panel manager can suspend panel summaries if no action is required on those panel summaries. For example, some programs triage proposals, and those triage proposals are proposals that get review scores, they get written reviews, but the review scores are such that the decision is made not to spend time from the panel discussing those proposals. And since a panel summary is supposed to capture the discussion of a proposal in the panel, there would be no panel summary provided for a proposal that's triaged. That concludes my remarks for you today. And if you have questions, I encourage you to talk to your NIFA program team and ask those questions. So thank you for listening to me today, and I hope you enjoy your service as a panel manager.